Welcome to the Big Bets on Campus podcast. This is the Group of Five Deep Dive presented by DraftKings Sportsbook. I'm Mike Calabrese, joined by my Action Network co-host Duck. We're going to run through what we liked about Week 11. There was a lot on my end, to be honest, but I'm not going to recap it all that deeply. I finally had an undefeated Saturday, 7-0, 2-0 here on the Best Bets from the show, which felt really, really nice. An appreciation moment for UConn football. I sung their praises, Jim Mora Jr. in the last episode, and then they just roll up against Duke and win outright as a 9-point dog. That was awesome. Southern Miss also hanging on to be able to cover the number in Sun Belt play. So we're not going to stop the love that we're heaping on the Eagles. But that's enough for the positivity. I'm sure there's some that you've been burning on, Duck. I know that there's been plenty of games this year that you've been a part of where the net success rate would have to say, you're going to go ahead and win this, you're going to cover, and then it doesn't, come to fruition. That's just football, unfortunately. But the Oregon State-Sam Houston game, I guess we got to start there.
Yeah, and I was pleased with the week. South Florida team total over was a no-sweat winner. You and I both had UConn and Southern Miss on the card. Jacksonville State gets to the window. FCS plays were good. We had a fun weekend overall, but when you talk about a spot on senior night, your last home game of the year, your season has been complete garbage. Rob Akey, the defensive mind, has turned around the defense that was just absolutely atrocious to start the season. And Oregon State goes out, they score on their first drive, they get a quick 3-and-out, they go down and kick a field goal, they score another touchdown, they have the ball up 17-0 in the second quarter, about ready to put their foot on the throat of 0-8 Sam Houston State. They have a turnover, they just completely cannot recover. It was absolutely unreal to watch as Sam Houston State scored, ran the kickoff back to start the third quarter. They had a punt return touchdown. They were stifling Oregon State's offense. When you talk about outgaining a foe that's winless at home this late in the season by 300 yards, and you lose the game outright, let alone the unlogged Oregon State live ticket that I had that was at plus money, and they could not come through. Frankly, it was very frustrating. It was embarrassing. There was time and time again where Oregon State had chances to capitalize. It's just unexplainable. It's a weird game. It's a game that is just strange sometimes with the way the ball bounces. And so that's what I think about that one. It was disappointing, but onward and upward, I'd say, for the rest of this season here for the G5 guys.
Now, before we get into our Week 12 bets, let's toss it over for Stuckey for a quick word from DraftKings.
The Big Bets on Campus podcast has teamed up with DraftKings Sportsbook, where new customers can bet $5 and get $300 back in bonus bets if your bet wins, and 3 months of NBA League Pass. If sports betting is not yet available in your state, don't worry. You can still join in on all the fun with DraftKings Daily Fantasy Sports and have a shot to win cash prizes. To get started, use promo code BBOC when signing up with DraftKings. Again, use code BBOC when signing up and bet $5 to get $300 back in bonus bets if your bet wins, plus 3 months of NBA League Pass. The crown is yours.
Thanks, Duck. Now, as we get into our bets for Week 12, if you'd like to tail some of the ones that you've heard in the episode or the ones that are going to be spelled out for you, given the rationale describing our card, top to bottom, you're going to get all of them in the quick slip link in the podcast and episode description, or you can visit actionnetwork.com/bet now, or even better, sign up for Action Pro now, where you're going to get immediate notifications. So the best bets at the best prices when experts like Stuckey, Colin Wilson, Duck, and myself log them in the Action app. Right now, you can use promo code BBOC20 when signing up for $20 off an annual subscription. So if you don't have Action Pro yet, use promo code BBOC20 to get on board for a $20 discount. And with that, we are on to the best bets here in Week 12. Duck, take it away first. You are going to a team we just talked about in Oregon State, and another one that has underwhelmed at times and certainly let you down. You have a belief in the Golden Hurricane. Let's see if you have the belief in the Oregon State Beavers. Talk me through this total that's sitting at 49.5.
Yeah, and I think it's a hair too high. Oregon State off of that gut-wrenching loss last week against Sam Houston. Really embarrassing fashion. I won't recap it as we just did in sounding off, but since Rob Akey has taken over on the interim basis, Oregon State's defense has played much better. 233 yards per game allowed, just over 4 yards per play. The secondary has played really good football while only allowing 2 passing touchdowns compared to 4 interceptions. Tulsa's offense, 82nd in offensive explosiveness, 96th in finishing drives. You can see this team wants to run the football. Should be the game plan here for Tulsa, as their leading receiver, Zion Booker, is likely out for this one. I would guess we get a heavy dose of Dominic Richardson here. When you look at the Tulsa defense, 3 weeks in a row, they have faced an elite and proficient passing attack, lining up against East Carolina, Temple, and FAU. Well, now they line up against Gabari Johnson, who threw the ball better last week, but missed some wide open receivers against Sam Houston. Just did not look good in the second half. After the 7-minute mark in the second quarter, Oregon State did not score again, and that spells trouble when you can't move the football on the worst defense in FCS in Sam Houston. I look at the weather. It's going to rain here, and we're going to get some major wind that's going to affect Oklahoma and Texas on Saturday during game time. So I would expect the wind to be rip-roaring. The rain is going to affect the passing and the place-kicking game. I can't imagine Oregon State is going to line up to attempt too many field goals here after how it went last week. So we're going to likely get situations of 4th and go time where they're only 7 out of 16 this year and 50% of the red zone this season. So I see a lot of 4th down stops. I see a lot of empty red zone possessions for Oregon State offensively. I think Oregon State's defense will keep them in this game, very similar to how they did against Wazoo. I think this is a low-scoring grinder. So 48.5, 49.5, go low.
I mean, only G5 guys like us are true members of that sicko community that could watch a game between Oregon State and Sam Houston and then immediately race to the window to bet their games the following week. You have yours. Let's listen to my best bet here. I like Delaware laying 9.5 against the Sam Houston team we just discussed. They're terrible. I mean, they're just awful against the pass. They can't run it. They're always behind the sticks. Their one win on the season, we just saw it. They outgained 474 to 157. One of the most improbable wins of the entire season. And Delaware, meanwhile, continues their really nice year in transition, moving up to FBS football here in Conference USA. They're 5-4 overall. They're 3-3 in CUSA. And they have a pair of quality wins. The UConn win looks better and better as the season progresses, but they also just beat a La Tech team that has gained a lot of respect, going from what was viewed as a middle-class Conference USA team to potentially threatening to go to the title game. And, I mean, they beat them on the field, to borrow your phrase, Duck. So this Delaware team, to me, when you look at those wins, they've aged nicely. Even, I mean, in their early season when they were playing against Colorado, when they were going on the road, winning at FIU, they've had a lot of nice moments that they built on, and it's all built around, obviously, Minicucci, who continues to elevate his play and be a consistent leader in their clubhouse. I love what he's done in the last 2 games alone, 740 total yards, 5 touchdowns. And a little known fact, I think we brought this up maybe on one of the weekend warm-up shows on Fridays, which you should check Duck and I out, 2 p.m. Eastern on Friday. We do a live show. We run through all the weather, the line movement, injuries, everything that's going to impact your Saturday card. And we take your questions live as we add to our Saturday card as well. With that being said, I think I may have brought this up on one of those episodes. Delaware, yes, they're in transition. They are not bowl eligible, but there is a big caveat to that. If they can get to 6 wins, they get to hop into line to replace, those teams if there are not enough to field a full bowl lineup, or if you have a bowl team pull out. And we saw it last year with Marshall, with the transfer portal and everything that happened with the coaching switch. They ended up pulling out of a bowl game. It worked for Jacksonville State in the past, where they were able to hop to a bowl game early. They actually went ahead and won that bowl game under Rich Rod. So there's still a lot to play for the Blue Hens. It's not just welcome to the big leagues, nice job, you guys were not a joke in year 1. They're right on that verge of bowl eligibility. So I think you're going to see maximum effort here. And laying single digits against the Sam Houston team, I think they're just begging to finally get waxed here, and the reality of the yardage discrepancy between the two teams actually playing out in the final box score. Any thoughts here on the Blue Hens and Sam Houston, or are they just dead to you after pulling a rabbit out of their hat against Oregon State on Saturday?
No, I love Delaware this week. You're absolutely fighting for bowl eligibility, although you're deemed ineligible at the current time. If there are not enough bowl eligible teams, you will be selected. And so the mindset has to be every game from here on out is our bowl game because we don't know if we're going to get one. They get a chance next week when they go to Wake Forest, and then they'll close out their season at home against UTEP. I think that this is a major 3-game stretch for this program to showcase what this program's all about. Delaware has been very, very competitive in their first year. I thought the depth and some of the talent drop off in the 2 deep would get to them late. It really hasn't. They've been a pretty feisty group all season. I really like them to go out and put their best foot forward. Sam Houston as well. Whatever the situation was, it was very, very fluky, but they're celebrating their first win. They're patting themselves on the back. They're feeling good about things. Phil Longo gets his first win since he was the head football coach at LaSalle. And now these guys are coming in ready to go. I think this is absolutely a spot to drop the hammer on the Hens.
Your second best bet, Duck, I know you're going to leave no stone unturned as it relates to the predictions, the analytics, the advanced stats. But some of this one that you're bringing up, the classic late season paycheck game for an SEC team, it comes down to coaching preference and motivation and historical performance. Do you start there with a team like Tennessee laying this many points in a game that it'll really just come down to, do they care in the second half to continue running it up? Do you start there, or do you start with the season long stats and why New Mexico State is so vulnerable here?
Well, I'm glad you brought that up because in this specific matchup, there's no real question about who's going to win the game. And so I start with how this game is going to be managed. And in this spot, Tennessee historically drops the hammer on their lesser foe. And this is a complete lay down and die spot for New Mexico State here. Losers of 4 games in a row. Bowl game aspirations have evaporated. This team has been close to breaking through against similar levels of competition, has New Mexico State, but not here. Tennessee off the bye week will really want to get some good reps here before letting the 2s mop up in the second half ahead of the Florida game. But let's just look at how Heupel has managed these late season spots against inferior competition. Last year against UTEP, laying the same number, 41.5, they win 56-0. 2023 against Connecticut, 59-3, Tennessee wins. 2022 against UT Martin, 66-24. And in 2021 against South Alabama, 60-14. If you think Tennessee is going to take this game lightly and just sleepwalk through it, now they haven't shown a propensity to do that under Heupel's care over the last 4 seasons in this exact same spot. New Mexico State's defense surrendered over 400 yards each of the last 4 weeks. They've allowed 66% completion percentage with 19 passing touchdowns given up this year. They're 120th in early down success allowed, 84th in pass explosiveness given up. Tennessee offensively is averaging 500 yards per game. I would suspect that they eclipse 600 yards here while putting up a massive total on the scoreboard. This line should be 49.5, not 39.5, 40, 41. Lay it with the Volunteers.
All right, I'm going to close it out here with a team that we've ridden all the way back from the preseason, certainly as soon as their numbers pop to win the Sun Belt, and that's Southern Miss. I mean, what do the Eagles need to do, Duck, for them to get some respect around here? Because they're laying less than a touchdown in this game. They're 5-0 in Sun Belt play. They're beating the crap out of the teams they're supposed to. They smacked Jacksonville State earlier in the year. That was undefeated. They remain undefeated in Conference USA play. That, performance against an in-state team in Mississippi State is looking better by the passing week because Mississippi State's probably moving towards bowl eligibility. They've certainly been feisty in a Power 4 conference. And the offense has hit 38 points 5 times this season, while their pass defense has rounded into elite G5 shape. And that was the hope in the preseason. You looked at the talent infusion from Marshall, everyone coming down from the Thundering Herd, joining up, Josh Moden in particular in that secondary. There was all this promise. It's been delivered upon. They're top 15 in pass success rate, defense, coverage, pass EPA, and pass rush. So if they can flip this game flow in which they get an early lead and Texas State can't be multiple, they can't rely on their run game, which remains really strong, then I think it's going to really play into USM's hands because I take this Texas State team seriously. Even though they're 0-5 in Sun Belt play, they can still score. They scored 39 in a loss to Louisiana in their last game. So there's still an opportunity for them to turn this into a shootout. But when you look at it, this Texas State defense, it's going to force G.J. Kinney to be coaching them when he's 50 years old. He was like a hot name 2 years ago. It seems like he's never going to get out of San Marcos because this defense continually lets him down. They used to have at least that havoc thing to hang their hat on, that they'd be top 20 in havoc, and it was either make a big play or give up a big play. Well, they're outside of the top 100 in every pass defense metric that you can look at. They can't create any havoc, though, anymore, as what used to be, as I mentioned, a counterbalance. They're 113th in the country there. And everyone moves the football on them, given the chance. They're 132nd in quality drives allowed. So that means a lot of scoring opportunities, a lot of times crossing their 40-yard line for this USM offense. Anything under a touchdown, I feel really comfortable putting my money in the hands of Braxton and Blake Anderson to score 38 plus again and to just force enough mistakes out of Texas State that they can win. Let's call it, 42-31, something in that neighborhood. I just think once it becomes a pass to catch up situation, there'll be an interception or two that goes USM's way. All right, Duck, we went back and forth a little bit on it, but it's your 4-minute segment. You can run this offense however you want, preview whatever game you want, because I threw one out and you kind of went, yuck. I don't know if I can discuss that for 4 full minutes, but I'm interested to hear what you're bringing to the table here in week 12.
Well, and it was a good pick. We picked this gross game because it does pit two undefeated G5 conference opponents against each other pretty late in the season for that. So Kennesaw State and Jacksonville State, when you look at KSU, an amazing year 2 turnaround and such progress made under head coach Jerry Mack, could legitimately be the G5 coach of the year if there was such a thing. Kennesaw has been so good at jumping their opponents early. They have held a double-digit lead in the first half in 6 straight games. Jacksonville State, when you look at them, they're going to run the ball, 2-to-1 run-pass ratio. It's going to be Cam Cook, 1,200 rushing yards, 12 scores, 6 yards per carry. It's Caden Creel, 600 yards, 3 rushing scores, 6 yards per carry. It's just one of those unique offenses that's difficult to prepare for. And when they get the running backs moving downhill, when they get the offensive line pushing, when you're 3-4 yards before first contact, it's really hard to stop these guys in the run game. The metrics look good for Kennesaw State because they've held each opponent in league play under 155 rushing yards, other than FIU. But the metrics look good because Kennesaw State has seen such little rushing against them because their opponents have been down early and have had to throw their way back into games in order to be able to stay in them. When you look at Kennesaw, though, 117th in EPA per rush surrendered, 116th in rush play explosiveness given up. It's a tough matchup for Kennesaw State if Jacksonville State is able to get that ground attack going, which I believe they will be able to do at home. For Kennesaw State offensively, both quarterbacks have played well. They rotate between Amari Odom and Dexter Williams. They've both thrown the ball well this season. They've connected on deep shots. The concern here is that they will be without leading receiver Gabe Benyard, who is going to be out for the Owls in this game. It's a big loss to the passing game. It's a big loss to the screen game. He's such an outlet for the quarterback in scramble, drill, and everything else. So it's a really tough loss for Benyard, not going to be a go. I think this is strength on strength here between two of the best bad teams in the G5, but I can't lay more than a field goal on the road here with the Owls. We've seen these guys struggle with New Mexico State last week, and don't even get me started on the UTEP game. We all remember that, so I'm just going to skip over that one. I don't think Kennesaw is going to be as explosive offensively as we've seen here, and I think that this defense is going to just have a little trouble containing the ground attack. It seems to me like this will be a fun game. It'll be back and forth. It's a field goal game either way, so I'm taking the Cox plus 3.5.
It's time for our G5 Underdog Moneyline Parlay presented by DraftKings. I'm going to hop in with a team that was flagged by Duck earlier this season, and that's the Chanticleers of Coastal Carolina. They have been absolutely rolling with Samari Collier at the helm. It's been a job-saving kind of quarterback switch by Beck. They've won 5 of 6. This offense is now averaging 43 points per game across its last 3. Collier's legs are the difference maker, and they will be, at least in my opinion, against the Eagles of Georgia Southern, because the Eagles are dead last in the FBS in pass rush. So that's going to give him a lot of time to extend plays. Forget about just the designed runs and the run play options that he's going to have when he is dropping back to pass, which I anticipate will be anywhere between 20 and 25 dropbacks in this game. He's going to be able to kill Georgia Southern in the scramble game. Jalen Rayner killed this very same defense with 50-plus on the ground and 3 rushing touchdowns. And I got more comps, bringing more receipts here. The JMU quarterbacks were able to burn him, 59 yards and 2 touchdowns. Gavin Wimsett from Jacksonville State with a run-heavy team was able to burn them as well. Collier is going to eat here. And what's interesting, after so many years of quality air raid play with quality weapons on the perimeter, Gata has gone from that ground attack, it has opted to go to the ground attack, I should say, this season. And a part of it is they want to take the ball out of J.C. French's hands because he was always a turnover machine. And also they just thought they're going to go lean into their strength because their offensive line has looked really good this year. They're 14th in line yards, 40th in success rate. And O.J. Arnold has been the beneficiary there, going north of 140 all-purpose yards in 2 of his last 3 games. So he'll be the focal point here. But Coastal just did, a decent job in the past month against Braylon McReynolds from ULM. During this winning streak, being able to shut down running attacks, even though it is a weakness for them. In this situation, I think that's where their focus will be. And they'll basically dare J.C. French, as I mentioned, someone who really struggles when he has the spotlight on him. In the last 2 years, he has 29 turnover-worthy plays. He's cut down a bit on them this year, but it's really just been, a volume reduction, and that's led to some of these, turnovers not burning them. I think in this particular game, Coastal has the offense to set the pace, and then if Georgia Southern is playing catch-up, French is going to give me the ball 2 or 3 times, or at least give my defense the opportunity to take it away when he puts the ball into orbit. So Coastal Carolina on the money line plus 120. That's the first leg. I know that you want to say a few more things about this Coastal team as well before you get into your Service Academy play, which I actually love. We're, passing love back and forth on this parlay. Hopefully it gets us across the finish line. But Air Force is a team that is a lot better than their record would indicate.
Yeah, love the Coastal Carolina play, catching Georgia Southern off of their big rival Appalachian State, deeper than hate rivalry. This is a good spot for the Chants. I like Air Force. I had this spot circled early in the season as kind of maybe a downer spot for Air Force, assuming that Air Force was going to be in a spot where they had already secured bowl game eligibility and were possibly vying for a Mountain West title. That didn't come to fruition, but the Falcons have been very close this year. They have a lot of close losses, and now it's about going out and winning the next couple of games, which they can do, and securing bowl eligibility to avoid back-to-back 5-7 seasons or worse. I've been so impressed with how this team has responded to adversity. And you look at UConn, it's just been one of those teams that has played up and down to their level of competition all season. UConn has a fantastic quarterback in Joey Fagnano, 25 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, and they've played 3 max efforts against the ACC, Syracuse, Boston College, and then played the game of their life last week against Duke. Well, what has happened the weeks following those big ACC performances? UConn has really struggled in the games that have followed. They laid a complete dud against Delaware and really played down against Ball State and Buffalo following that. And then off a huge win on the road against Boston College, UConn goes out and loses outright as 10-point favorites on the road against Rice. Well, now you're in kind of that down spot again, which we've seen UConn have a propensity to do. But I like what Air Force is doing offensively. I think Liam Zarka has completely been controlling the offense here. The ground game played really well against San Jose State, which is a tough task with Navy Ken, who knows how to defend the option and did so at Navy for 15 years. Air Force peaked about this time last season, and I really think you'll see them be able to run the ball against a UConn rush defense that's just simply not very good. UConn is unfamiliar with the scheme. We've seen the hangovers before. I think this is just a major trouble spot now for Connecticut. Going to be tough to defend that triple option attack. Air Force has just been close. You look at some of the games that they've lost that they could have won. Could have won the Army game. Could have won the Navy game. A couple other teams they could have beat this season, which would have been a much different song and dance for the Flyboys here. So I like Air Force. We're getting the free touchdown. I think they can win this game on the field. So give me the money line on the Falcons.
Yeah, I mean, if anyone has any trepidation going against UConn after they just were able to score that big victory. You don't have to look much further than their performance against Ball State earlier in the year. Ball State outgained them. UConn didn't even turn the ball over, and they were lucky to escape with a 6-point win. So, sometimes it's a bit tongue-in-cheek when we say some of these offenses like Ball State, it's a de facto service academy offense. They don't just have that explosiveness on the outside. It's a lot of eye candy just to be able to run the ball a ton. Well, at least Air Force actually has that flexibility. They should be able to run all over this UConn defense. And if they do put the ball in the air, UConn's going to put their corners on an island because they're going to have so much committed into the box. So I think this Air Force team, as an underdog, always has a puncher's chance. We almost saw it get across the finish line earlier this year against UNLV. So there's no problem, in my opinion, in terms of playing up. You also saw that against Navy. This is just a team that's tough. They're tough to kill. They're going to go for it. They're going to be aggressive on fourth down. So you just need to have some of that fourth down variance go in your direction. All right, that was our Moneyline Parlay presented by DraftKings. Check out the Parlay Express account in the free award-winning Action Network app where this G5 Moneyline Parlay will be posted. You're also going to find a bunch of other fun long shot bets and parlays in there as well. You can also find the quick slip link in the podcast and video description or visit actionnetwork.com/betnow to find and tail some of the bets we've discussed, including our G5 Moneyline Parlay. All right, Duck, it's 2-minute offense time. Race to the line of scrimmage. No time to check to the sideline. You got to go, go, go. What are your FCS leans here in Week 12?
I like Tennessee Tech this week. Kentucky has Vandy and Louisville next, and while this win will help position the Cats for bowl game eligibility, winning with margin is another story. Tennessee Tech is a very, very solid FCS team, not your typical Ohio Valley bottom feeders. Kekoa Vesperis, 22 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, 66% completions, very talented quarterback. Tennessee Tech has 2 running backs that average 7 yards per carry with 9 rushing touchdowns each. The run defense is very stout, allowing 61 yards per game on the ground. Secondary's been lights out, and Kentucky has played some major squeakers against FCS competition over the last 5 years. They better show up on Saturday or they're going to be in trouble. This is a big showcase game for the Golden Eagles. They're going to keep it much tighter than the 22.5-point spread. Next, I'm going to Alabama State. Their star quarterback, Andrew Body, remains out with a shoulder injury. I doubt they rush him back here from injury to try to get him back for this one. But this entire offense picked up nicely without him last week against Texas Southern and really should have no issue scoring 45 or 50 points here against Mississippi Valley State, just like Jackson State did last week with a backup quarterback. It's a neutral site game, the Port City Classic. Mississippi Valley cannot throw the ball. They have a quarterback that can't evade the pressure. They don't pass protect very well. The receiving group is not talented enough to make contested catches or to break away downfield. Just major trouble for Mississippi Valley State. They're not going to move the ball. They're not going to score a lot of points. Alabama State should cover this number pretty comfortably. The last play I'm looking at, Long Island and St. Francis of PA under. The current total is projected about 41.5 or so. We've got 2 real slow-paced offenses that are averaging 284 and 271 yards per game, respectively. LIU run heavy at 62%. We should continue that as Luca Stanzani and Ethan Greenwood they're both not good at quarterback. They rotate in both of those players. Not good. SFPA has 1 rushing play all season longer than 20 yards. LIU has just 12. The defenses do not allow a ton of explosivity, don't allow a ton of big plays, and the 2 offenses are just really, really bad. This is going to be an under all the way. Anything 40 or 41, we're going to dive in on the under.
All right, I'm going to hop in with my 2-minute drill. Let's start with Memphis catching 2.5. It's not over for Memphis. Just a quick heads up. Yes, they got to win out. Yes, they got to get a lot of help. But it's not impossible for them to sneak back into the American title game because of that head-to-head win over South Florida. There's a cluster of teams with 1 and 2 losses at the top of the American. So like I said, they still have things to play for here. And their whole season, if you really look at it, I mean, outside of that letdown game against UAB and that slow first half against Tulane, they played really good football for 2 straight months. And they roared back against Tulane, by the way. They outscored them 15-3 in the second half. And if Lewis doesn't go to the sideline with an injury late, and they have to go to their backup quarterback to lead that drive, maybe it's a game-winning drive, and we're thinking of this Memphis team in a completely different way. He's a tough kid. I figure he's just going to, soldier through this ankle injury in this game. And when it comes to ECU, I'm just not there with the Pirates, if we're being totally honest, vis-a-vis what their market perception is. Look at their wins this year. FCS, Campbell, Coastal before the quarterback switch, which is a huge difference. Coastal was drawn dead before Collier got in there. Then Army, Tulsa, Temple, Charlotte. A lot of these are just not good teams, and they struggled to move the football on BYU and Tulane, who I think are a lot closer to the overall caliber of this Memphis team. So I'm going to go ahead and look on Memphis to beat up on this ECU defense, to throw on them, because they are elite at stopping the run, but they are 106th in coverage. So if you put the ball in the air, if Lewis is a go in this game, I think they're going to win it outright, but I'll go ahead and take the points as well. Buffalo, plus 1.5, action time. I can't quit you, Pete Lembo. I want to. I want to be able to just walk away. But, the last game against Bowling Green, I hopped back in pregame, 5 minutes before kick. They finally put it all together. I'll take the Bulls. I'll take this defense, which in MAC play, by the way, leads the conference in sacks and forced fumbles. So the Chips, by the way, awful in pass protection, 135th in the entire country. One of the biggest differentials in terms of a strength versus a weakness that you can line up in this entire conference. And the UB running game finally got going in their last game, 119 and a score for Al J. Henderson. CMU, 87th in line yards on defense. They should be able to push this pile. They should be able to win in the trenches a little bit and score some points. And I just think they get it done. So listen, I'm willing to get hurt one more time with Lembo. I'm going to close out my 2-minute drill with this. Tulane laying 17.5. I'm laying it down right now. I think Tulane has turned the corner. I think the rumors have calmed down about Sumrall. You've seen him more engaged with the media, not having to fight off all these questions. It seems like he's locked in for what is potentially on the horizon for this Green Wave team. Retzlaff, by the way, rebounded beautifully from that nightmare game against UTSA in which he got pulled. He had 375 yards and 4 total touchdowns against Memphis. And we get FAU looking a little bit better in the market. Their perception, was a little bit better after that Tulsa win. But no offense, Doug, I never thought Tulsa was going to be good this year. I think this is fool's gold with FAU. When I look at it, Tulane has the college football playoff in their sights. The offense is cooking. And when it comes to throwing off FAU, if they're trying to get any momentum, how do you do it? You know where Veldkamp's going to be in the pocket. Can you heat him up? Tulane may have the best pass rush in the American against, this FAU team that has really got boat raced. They've been bombed when they played against better teams. They lost by 29 to Memphis, 35 to South Florida. This is another blowout to me. That's what this one has written all over it. Any of those 3 games stick out to you?
Yeah, I mean, it appears that this Tulane team is in a good spot here and really one that can put themselves in position to try to make a run at the conference championship. And if you look at FAU the rest of the way, it could be real trouble with UConn, ECU, and Tulane left on the schedule. They may not have another win the rest of the way. So I think that is a real interesting spot. I love Buffalo. I think Buffalo is going to peak here the next couple of weeks. If they beat CMU, then they just need to win one of the next 2, and they'll find themselves in the conference championship discussion. We've said it all off season and all through this season. This is what Buffalo is playing for now. I think we'll see some urgency from the Bulls. I think we'll see that defense step up and really smother the CMU run game. Central Michigan can't pass the ball. They can't. If you get them in 3rd and 7 or longer, they can't throw their way out of it. I think Buffalo is really going to bring it tomorrow night. I love the Bulls. It's on my card.
All right. We usually close out with the tug of war, but the officials have put their hands up. Yes, it is official. I am in the end zone. I was worried I was going to stall out in the red zone, much like the FAU team we were just discussing, just horrific in the red zone. The play calling is not there. The personnel is not there. Hawaii gets me easily over the goal line. No review needed. They win outright going away against San Diego State. Didn't need the points. So that means Duck is going to fly north, come visit me. We're going to go to a college basketball game. We got lots of options. We got Nova. We got St. Joe's. We got, the rest of the Big Five. We got Penn down there. Maybe we can do a doubleheader. But it'll be good to see you in the month of December. We'll hit up some local basketball. We'll be throwing out plays outside the arena, throwing some things live on Twitter. I know that's what people want to see out in the wild, enjoying the gambling community. And listen, I think the tug of war was great. We got to run it back in some way, shape, or form, during college basketball season. Duck, I'm proud to say is going to be a part of the BBOC universe for the college hoop season as well. We're going to be able to fold him in for some previews. I know that you are a specialist when it comes to totals. Just a quick plug, what can we expect from you on the show as we talk about the college hardwood?
Yeah, I love college hoops. It's really a fun sport to wager on. You get games all during the season, every day, different times of the day. You get unique matchups when you get different conferences that play against each other. A lot of it's going to be the non-marquee stuff. A lot of it's going to be the Big Sky. It's going to be the SWAC, the MEAC, some of those, the Summit League, some of those obscure leagues that are not closely followed, but there's a lot of value in totals. And I put out a piece regarding under the radar pace changes. One of those was IUPUI or IU Indy. So we were out ahead of that one. Sac State has Shaquille O'Neal involved in their team as the GM, and they're coached by Mike Bibby back in Sacktown. Those of you that follow the NBA will remember those days. And so there's a lot of things to try to follow up on. I like betting totals. I like the value that I think that finding some of these under the radar totals provides. And so it'll almost be exclusively totals for me, but we're going to bring a lot of value for hardwood. We're going to try to get people to the window. We're going to have a lot of fun, and it's all going to culminate in March with the greatest sporting event that you could possibly draw up.
That'll do it for today's episode of the Group of Five Deep Dive Under the Big Bets on Campus banner, presented by DraftKings. Thanks for tuning in. As always, don't forget to download the free award-winning Action Network app and leave us a 5-star rating and review wherever you listen to the pod. It's time for another 5-star review to hit the feed. So as soon as it does, give us a shout out, throw us 5 stars, say whatever you want, and we're going to give out another parlay. Future looking, pretty soon we're going to have to switch it over to college hoops, but I still think there's time for the Heisman market, for the college football playoff market, and national championships. So you can get some bets in there. Just hit us up on X after we read out your winning slip. A reminder, Marlon's woman from the last episode that I said, you want a $25 parlay, you still got to hit me up over on Twitter at East Breeze. Remember, as always, if you want to tail any of the bets that you heard in today's episode, there's going to be quick slip links in the episode description. You can also go to actionnetwork.com/betnow. And please, 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 if you haven't already subscribed to the YouTube channel, do so. If you have multiple accounts, multiple Gmails, flip through all of them, subscribe through all of them, comment, like. That really helps us in the algorithm, gives us a chance to grow as a show. Thanks for listening to the Big Bets on Campus podcast. For Duck, I'm Mike Calabrese. You make it possible for us to produce this show every week, and we deeply appreciate you. Hopefully another winning Saturday is on tap. Enjoy yourselves, and as always, best of luck with all your bets.